Give it to me. It's mine!
Charade is a film that came out in 1963 that's directed by Stanley Donen and starring Cary Grant and Audrey Hepburn. So, Charade is a Criterion patron pick from Tyree. I'm finally winding down to the last bit of patron picks here, and once I get through the last 4 picks, I'm going to be doing a lot of different things to the channel. I mean, not so different, but I'm definitely going to be doing a lot more, like, top list videos. I'm going to be doing a lot more analysis, especially scene analysis type videos of both new and older releases. And, on top of a lot of other fun new things I want to do with the channel. I mean, I'm still going to be doing the occasional review of essential cinema, if you will, every now and again. But overall, I do want to spice up the channel a little more. And I just think it'll be refreshing for everybody, including myself, to kind of diversify my content a little bit more. So stay tuned for that. But anyway, how did I feel about Charade? I basically absolutely nothing about this film going into it. All I knew about it was really the reception of it. I knew that a lot of people actually really liked this film a lot. And to quickly sum up my thoughts about this film as a whole, is that I really dug the first act. I thought that it established the characters incredibly well, and I immediately noticed how insanely good the quality was. I mean, I don't know if it's just like the Criterion Restoration team just doing an absolute bang-up job, or if it was always just really well shot in this way in terms of camera quality. Because for a film that's shot in 1963, the color and just the resolution quality is pretty damn impressive. I mean, of course you have films like The Red Shoes that came out in the 1940s that are much more impressive in my opinion in terms of color and cinematography, but just the sheer resolution of this film, I thought looked insanely crisp for the time. But anyways, the second act of this film is where I started to become a lot more disinterested in the material. And then we get an amazing suspense sequence in the third act of this film that caught me off guard, and right when I started, as I mentioned, not really caring for the movie, it just gives you a shot of adrenaline out of nowhere, and really made me engage with the work again. And overall, I do really enjoy the third act as a whole. Not in love with everything about it, especially like the very ending of this movie, but in terms of how the third act is able to elevate this film in a lot of different ways, not only in terms of character and story, but just in terms of directing style and, being able to establish suspense sequences, I think was very impressive filmmaking. And in terms of the aesthetic qualities to this film that are the eye-popping color and the cinematography, I really dug the score to this film. What I really liked about the score, at least for the vast majority of it, is that it's quite subtle. And for me, that really enhanced the material, because I felt like, especially during the more suspenseful moments, I was really able to feel the atmosphere and feel everything that the film wanted me to feel, because the score wasn't so overbearing, and I felt like I could really absorb the moments for what they were. And I think the score, as I mentioned, just had a huge hand in that. And I also quite dug the side character to this film. We'll get into the main characters a little bit later, but I thought pretty much all the side characters were a lot of fun, because this film is, at least what I got from it, it's really, to me, a romantic comedy with some elements of dark comedy even. And then the plot itself lays a foundation for a suspense thriller movie that, only in some sequences we really feel that suspense genre of the film. But for me personally, I mostly felt more of the romance and comedy genre in this film, which is the reason why I did dig quite a bit of the side characters, because they mostly kind of came off comedic. Obviously this film kind of goes down some dark roads, but overall, the characters were quite entertaining. Like, just probably my favorite side character in this movie is the man with the mechanical hand, and there's a scene in the movie where he actually holds the gun with his mechanical hand, and for some reason I found that oddly humorous. But when it comes to the romance of this film, I just had such a difficult time getting behind it, and that's a huge reason why the second act of this film didn't really work for me all that much, because it made me not really care that much about Audrey Hepburn's character. And the reason why I say that is because the entire conflict of the plot basically revolves around the fact that Audrey Hepburn's husband, who, had just, perpetually been murdered off of a train, he had a bunch of money that was left behind, and basically everybody, all the characters that are surrounding Audrey Hepburn's character are basically in search of that money. And she gets put in a situation where she is informed on everything, and she knows that she is now in a situation where she cannot trust anybody. And for some reason, Audrey Hepburn's character finds that this is an ideal time to just fall head over heels for somebody. That somebody being Cary Grant's character. And, at first, when she's flirting with him and kissing him all over, I thought that maybe she's playing like a 3D chess spy move. But then it turns out no, she actually really likes him a lot. And, she basically just can't keep her feelings out of the equation, and she can't keep her hands off of him. And that's basically the playbook throughout the rest of the film. And it's even exposed that Cary Grant's character had lied about his name over and over again, and she confronts him about it over and over again, and every time he has some whack-ass story to tell, and it's just like, for her, it doesn't matter. Like, even in this really intense situation where people are literally trying to murder her and, find out what's going on with the money, she, for some reason, is still falling in love with this man. And for me, it just wasn't really the most impressive or ideal character writing for your female protagonist. And it's just because it just comes off way too forcibly traditional and cliche. I mean, I do understand, like, it's a 60s movie. A lot of movies in the 60s, fell into the traditional character writings for their female roles. But overall, I guess I just expected more out of her character in terms of intrigue and substance that I don't feel like I really got. I mean, don't get me wrong, Audrey Hepburn as an actress is still a delight on screen. It's my first experience watching her on screen. And, she's delightful. Even though I couldn't really get behind the character writing and her decision making, I still couldn't help but appreciate the way that she was embodying this character. But as I mentioned earlier, I really did enjoy the third act reveal to this film. Again, it kind of hit me like a ton of bricks. It came out of nowhere right when I thought that I really wasn't liking this film all that much. It just comes out of nowhere and throws a huge curveball at you. And I really appreciate it for that. I mean, not only for its narrative and character twist, but just the entire suspense sequence that we get in the third act, I think is wonderfully directed and captured. But the actual ending to this movie, like the last few minutes of this film, I didn't really care too much for, because it just runs into that similar problem. Basically the same exact problem that I mentioned, of just the way that it goes about romance and character that I just really couldn't relate to, I couldn't appreciate, and don't really feel like, again, there was really much substance behind it. So overall, I'm going to give Charade a strong 6 out of 10. I know that a lot of people really love this film, and honestly, I can see why you do. I mean, again, it looks gorgeous, the color is eye-popping, Audrey Hepburn is delightful, and the suspense sequences in this movie, especially some of the action suspense sequences, are wonderfully executed. But personally, I was just highly dissatisfied with the character dynamics of our main characters, which unfortunately dragged the experience for me down a bit. That's all I got to say about Charade. If you really enjoyed what I had to say about the film, please give it a thumbs up and share it amongst your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to be updated on more film-related content.